My name is Zhou Wang. I'm Chief Science Officer at SSIMWAVE. At the same time, actually I have two hats. I'm also professor at University of Waterloo. So just my personal background, I have been working in the field of video quality and the quality of experience measurement and optimization in the past 20 years. For myself, I have been doing a lot of research in the field. So, so here, when we talk about quality of experience, all the things we have been talking about is how we're going to do quality delivery of video, right? So, and everything condensed to only three questions we want to ask. The first thing is how to ensure end users quality of experience, right? So this is final consumers, final user, they're watching your video. Are they experiencing some good quality or not? The second thing is how to ensure the content producers' creative intent is faithfully delivered, right? So these are the people who are producing this content, they provide you with this content, they really want this creative intent in that original content being faithfully delivered to the final users. So they care about video quality from another perspective as well. The third thing is that you cannot afford to put infinite amount of money, infinite amount of resources in video distribution. So the third question is how to save and the resource and the cost without sacrificing user QoE. Right? So, so talking about the QC or quality control or quality assurance in video distribution, we can look at a simple diagram of the video distribution system. Suppose you get some source video content from somewhere, from content producer, from satellite or some other ways. And this video content, the source content is going to go through several stages. It could go through some encoding process, go to your media center, you do some further transcoding, you do packaging, caching, all those kind of processing. And then it goes to the network. In the network, there could be some further distortion, and finally they reach your consumers. They are using their TVs and phones and tablets to watch your video. Right, so how you can do the best quality control of this? Actually, there's a very simple answer to that question. So suppose you can do this, right? Suppose you can put all these humans at each of the transition point in your video distribution. So each of the point there, you get some person, a real person, sitting there watching your video 24/7, all the video stream pass through that. And then as long as there are some problems, they report to you, right? So they look at the video, oh, I got freeze here, or I got strong macro blocking here, there. They're going to call you and tell you, okay, there are some problems. If you can do this, right, so throughout the whole network, the whole video delivery chain, you can do that, then you get the perfect solution because now you can identify where is the problem, localize the problem. Okay, starting from this point, people are calling me, starting to tell me that there are some problems. Right, so the reason, of course, in the end, what really matters is going to be in the end. Because if there's some middle stage, your video is already kind of have some problem, quality problem, probably down the road, all the people down the road will tell you there are some problems with the video. So in the end, you want to say, begin with the end in mind, right? So it's the final user say is the most critical to you, right? So, okay, so then we got a very simple solution to that problem. We can deploy so many people in my network and solve the problem. Of course, this is not something feasible because this could be very expensive, and you can't expect these people to watch your video 24/7, and you can't also expect all of them will behave the same. They have their own emotion and they have in different mood and so on, right? So they may not give you consistent score over the whole system. And in any case, this could be super expensive. You can't because you are talking about monitoring a large-scale network of thousands of channels, thousands of programs with millions of users. You don't have so many people who can sit there and watch your video all the time, right? So, but you really like to have something like this, right? So this, so our proposed solution is very simple. Just replace all these humans with quality probes, right? So, and this quality probes is going to be quite different from the traditional way people talk about quality probes when you do quality control inside video delivery system, because in those kind of probes, those probes are reporting to you different things and different stages. Each of the stage, they can give you 10, 20, 100 different metrics. Each of the metrics is using some strange technical terminology, and they may not link to each other. They may or may not connect very well to each other. So it's really hard for you to work on them. And many times you could get hundreds of thousands of alerts every day. When you are facing all these alerts, you don't know what can I do about them. So this is quite different from there, because all these probes are supposed to replace human eyes. Right? So human eyes can tell you only one thing. Human eyes look at a video, they say the video is excellent, that video is poor, that video is really bad. Right? So they're going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you whatever these kind of other objective measurement on different aspects of the video. Right? They only tell you one thing. So if this one thing, one consistent scaling in terms of human visual perception is being kind of measured throughout the whole video distribution network, all of these probes, each of the single probe is telling you some story on the same scale, right? Trying to predict one number consistent throughout the whole network. That really will become something you can connect to this picture, right? So, okay, of course, you say, okay, sure, I can do this. What else I can do? This is the best. This is Holy Grail. This is really the thing I want to have. But of course, the most difficult thing here is a good quality QoE metric. So you have to have an objective QoE metric that's very accurately predict how humans perceive video quality. And they also has to be very flexible, versatile to be deployed into all these points. They have to be computed in real time with hopefully low cost, right, in terms of computation, so that I can receive all this information in real time, and then I can look at the whole picture, right? So of course, this is the most difficult problem. And if we look at the traditional method or the state-of-the-art, somehow you can say that they are state-of-the-art objective video quality metrics. So for example, like a PSNR, SSIM, multi-scale SSIMWAVE, and the other methods that are there, most of these methods are open source. You can get them. Can they satisfy us, right? So the problem is unfortunately, I have to say no, because they are lacking certain properties, very important properties. I hate to say that because like SSIM, I was the original author of SSIM, and I love it. I spent so much time to show it works. But now I have to say, in the picture I just shown just now, it's not enough, right? So you have to do a lot more on top of that in order to produce something that you can use in the video distribution monitoring solution. Okay, so basically when we talk about quality of experience, we say this is when we talk about this true quality of experience. It's quite different from the traditional thing people are talking about, like QoS, or there's another version we call it PseudoQoE. So what's the difference between these measures? So when we talk about QoS, it's more about network-centric measures, right? So you can measure the bit rate, you can measure the packet drop rate, you can measure network delay, or you can do some integrity check. You got a video stream, you try to decode that. Yes, you can decode it, right? So it's valid. It's in a valid format, right? So you can play the video, right? So these are the checks you can do. Of course, this QoS is kind of useful, right? So it's somehow related to your final QoE, but that's not going to give you some straightforward prediction about QoE. So for example, some of the video, you compress it too much, right? So it's a lot of artifacts, right? So a lot of blocking artifacts, a lot of bad impression, but it's still valid video, right? So there's nothing wrong about the video in terms of its format, whether it's decodable or not, right? So, but these are the things you can take care of with a QoS, but not like a QoE, but not QoS, right? So there are other kind of what we call the PseudoQoE method. They are closer to the end user. So in this case, you can do statistics on initial buffering rate when you have a playback of a video. You can do statistics on the stalling event, the stalling frequency, stalling duration, all those kind of things. You can do statistics of that. That will give you something better because this is directly related to what your consumers are finally experiencing. But still, they're not look at the video itself. Right, so when we talk about true QoE, it's something that you look at the pixels, just like human eyes are looking at the pixels. Your algorithm need to look at the pixels and do exactly what the humans would like to say about the video. Actually, these different way of measuring video quality are quite different from each other. Right, so hopefully we can show more examples later. So, okay, so coming back when we talk about measuring true QoE, as I said, you have to do something just like humans watching the video. So you have to have a model that precisely model the human visual system. So basically, you convert your knowledge about human visual system into computational models, into something you can compute and put that in the software, make it really, really fast so that people can compute that, give you predictions about human perception. Right? So ideally, this should also map to scores. Very simply, you can understand that score. So in this case, we can give a score between 0 to 100. Between 80 to 100 is excellent quality, 60 to 80 is good quality, 40 to 60 is fair quality, and so on, right? So between 0 and 20 is going to be really, really bad quality. Right, so if you have a method that can mimic human visual system, and it's a software you can run, it can give you score, that score mapped to this scale. Then you put that, remember, put that into the video distribution network, put into that framework. You can get a very comprehensive understanding about how your video delivery works. And of course, I mentioned earlier, right, so already have some popular or state-of-art video quality metrics out there. Such as structural similarity, SSIM, multi-scale structural similarity, VMAP, and all these kind of methods. I said they're not enough. Actually, they don't work in these cases because that can only be used as a starting point. So over the years, we have started from SSIM, which I published in 2004, until this point is 2017 is already 15 years. We have done a lot more research on top of that, right? So why we spend so much time, still need to spend so much time working on top of that? These are a list of many of the issues we have to take care of. So for example, resolution, right? So you have transcoder before and after transcoder. You have high resolution 4K or full HD input. After transcoding, you have a different resolution, 480, 720, 360, 288, all these different resolutions. How do you compare the video before and after? You don't even have the same number of pixels. They're in different resolution. How are you going to compare them? Right, so another thing is, what if you show the video, the same video to different device, right? So the same video, you show that on a cell phone, it looks perfect, looks pretty good. But when you show that on a big TV, you see all these artifacts, right? So the perceptual experience is going to be different. So cross-resolution, cross-device, and also say cross frame rate, right? So you have higher frame rate, lower frame rate. What's the implication of a frame rate on quality? Also, how about dynamic range, right? So what's the implication of using high dynamic range to encode the video content. Like, what if I have a transcoder that converts high dynamic range to low dynamic range video, right? So how you compare the video before and after. Your reference and source video has high dynamic range, and then your test video has low dynamic range. How are you going to do this, right? So there are many, many other practical issues. I cannot go through all of them, but there are definitely a lot of other things. So for another example, what if before and after transcoding, your video got delayed by 10 frames, 20 frames, right? So who knows, right? So there could be some delay. How are you going to compute them, right? So how are you going to compute compare the before and after video? They're not even temporally aligned, sometimes not even temporally and spatially aligned. How are you going to compare those videos? You have to solve all these problems. If you just say, because these days a lot of people are asking me, why you have to use these your SSIMWAVE and SSIM+ measure? Why not just use open source, right? So that's a question I've been asked all the time. I have all these open source there. Why not just grab them? I can compute something. I can do quality assessment. I have to say that it's not gonna work. The reason is all these issues, it cannot be solved easily, including this spatial temporal alignment, including this cross-resolution method. That's why we do all this research, right? So it's not that we haven't tried open source. It's structured similarity. SSIM is an open source software. Everyone is using that, right? So, but it's over the years, it's already 15 years. Over the years, I see people use that a lot, but it's used in a very limited environment. So I would say all these open source software, if you want to use them, is more suited for lab use. Or you can wait, right? So you take some clips, you evaluate encoders, you encode the same video clips using different encoders, and then after that you use this software, use this algorithm, make sure they're perfectly aligned with each other. You compute some scores, and then you also use your eyes to look at them. You can evaluate. But this is not something you can use for enterprise solution, for operations, especially for live operation. That's something impossible. How you can do this in large scale, 24/7, right? So real time, right? So with all these videos aligned and not aligned, you have primary video, backup video, and all these kind of video. How are you going to deal with all of them? But in the real world video distribution system, you really want to monitor all of them. Right, so this is something we are able to enable in the past few years. And at this point, we have thousands of channels being monitored by SSIMWAVE's live monitoring, for example. That gives you a very good example of how this can scale, how this can be done in large scale in real time. Right? Okay, so this gives you some example. What do you mean by 90? This is a video frame that looks pretty good. If you compress it more, then you start to see some artifacts. Hopefully, you can see that in the back. And if you compress it even more, you can see much stronger artifacts, right? So this is in the bad region. You can see very strong artifacts there. So this gives you impression what do we mean by a score of 15, what do we mean by a score of 35, what do we mean by a score of 51, and so on. What do we mean by a score of 90, right? So that gives you an impression what the algorithm is trying to do in the end. All right, so as I said, once these video quality probes, QoE probes, are deployed over the system, you can look at all these scores throughout the distribution. So in this case, in the end, you got at a consumer side, you got these TV or tablet and phone scores get pretty low, 35, 41, 45. There must be something wrong in the distribution. You get kind of trace back the score, and then easily you figure out, okay, it's the transcoder that's doing something wrong because the input transcoder is 92. All of the transcoders already get a pretty low score, right? So some other examples, and in this example, you trace it back all the way. You figure out, oh, it's because the source content is very, very bad. So this is actually a pretty common case. A lot of customers are saying that sometimes they just receive pretty crappy source video from the very beginning. So it's not my fault doing anything wrong about my video. It's the source that's already in a pretty low quality range. Right, so interestingly, recently we got some feedback from Akamai. So Akamai is doing some very, very interesting research. They're trying to link quality of experience of user engagement. Right, so that's something we find this report very, very interesting. So basically what they are saying that if your video, the quality of video or QoE of your video is at very high level, right, versus at low level. At high level, people are more emotionally engaged, right? So basically, this is saying that if your video has very, very high quality, when you laugh louder, right? So when you cry harder, right? So that's the difference between high quality and low quality video. If this is a very low quality video, probably you don't react as strong as your high quality video. Right, so that gives you a very good, important indicator about why people are more engaged, maybe why people are subscribed to your service more when you have high quality of experience video being delivered to them. Right, so so you got this alert, and then this also tells you when you have high quality video, it's more sensitive as well. So when you are playing a very high quality video, if there's some degradation, major degradation event happening, this could be blocking artifact, could be video freezing, or all kinds of major problems happened during the playback of your video, then people got affected more when you play a higher quality video. Right? So it's very important to maintain the quality of the distribution, and this gives you, for different kind of emotion kind of indicators, how people are reacting to video quality degradation. And Akamai also read another article. The title is very interesting. So what does good look like? In that report, they are using SSIMWAVE, SIM Plus, especially the SIM Plus metric, to measure video QoE. They believe this is the best quality metric they can use to measure video QoE. And then they link this video QoE to emotional engagement of the users, and also to viewership and subscription of the viewers. Right. So I think this is giving us something very useful. Right. So as I said, once you have something like this deployed, right, your human-like QoE probe deployed throughout your video distribution system, you can do a lot of things to optimize this, right? So for example, if you know some of the content is super important, or this group of viewers are super important to you, or you're earning a lot of money from these people, then you probably will think about how I can improve their quality of experience. I'm going to put more resource into that so that they get even more happier, right? So somehow you feel like you're in control of the viewer's QoE, right? So on the other hand, if there's some other content, not that much viewership, is not so important content to you, you may be able to reduce the resource you put into those videos. So once you have this QoE quality monitoring probe deployed to the whole video distribution system, then you feel like you are completely in control of your final viewer's QoE. Right, so you can optimize your resource allocation. In the end, you can even save a lot of costs. On average, we can show you that you can even save a lot of costs when you do this video distribution. Right, so this gives you some examples. So for example, you can explore one of the many, many features of this SIM Plus measure, which is cross-device assessment. Right, so as I mentioned, the same video delivered to different devices, people will get different experience. So if you already know this particular viewer is using this particular device, why should you send even higher quality that this viewer cannot even see, right? So for example, it's already like a very high quality video. This viewer is watching on a cell phone. you make it 4K and even higher quality, you're just wasting your bandwidth because this viewer cannot even see the difference on their smartphone. Right? So if you already know the device of the particular viewer, right? So, and these are rate distortion curves you can draw based on using this SIM+ metric that can tell you what kind of action you should have in order to save your resource or in order to improve this particular user's experience. Okay, so I think that's pretty much what I want to talk about. So it's time for taking some questions.
How about audio monitoring?
Okay, so that's not part of the SIM+ metric, but that's what SSIMWAVE is doing. SSIMWAVE is doing this audio checking, right? So especially this actually one major issue that we see a lot is that when you have a player video, you insert an ad in the middle, then the loudness gets much louder and then go back and forth, right? So you want to detect all these events, but SSIMWAVE's quality probe does have those features, but it's not part of the SIM+ algorithm. Yeah, this algorithm is only for video. Yeah. Yes?
And how many points on the scale is discernible for a human that you can tell that this is, instead of 97, it's a 96, or like what's the minimal amount of points that a human can detect?
You mean human can detect the difference between two? So ballpark idea is like 3 to 5. You should be able to clearly see difference. It also depends on who you are talking to, right? So if these golden eyes they are pretty critical at picking difference and problems of video. But common people, if you have a 5-point difference, probably they won't tell much difference. And interestingly, we're also working with the golden eye of the golden eyes. We work with American Society of Cinematographers, and they are giving us some video content graded by this particular person. This person is going to do some subjective testing. So this is like the content I graded in my studio, right? So I decided on the color of every single pixel, make sure everything is correct. And then they want to give this to us, and then we simulate this compression process, and then we use this quality measuring tool to show the difference before and after compression. For common people, probably there's nothing wrong, it's all okay. But for them, they're very critical because these are their own content. They spend so much time to get this red, exactly red they want, right? So, that's the thing that we have been working on as well. Yeah. Yes.
So do you know any possible limitations in this approach?
Yeah, of course there are always limitations. Actually, we have a lot of new things we wanted to add into this, right? So, for example, we are working with like Dobie, right, to have this Dobie Vision HDR stuff into the home. The general framework is already there, but we need to do a lot of alignment work with Dobie Vision. So, for example, right. So that's the current limitation. We're not covering that part, right. So those are the. Yeah.
What I'm saying is that we talked about other matrices, and we mentioned that those are not enough to give a proper idea about the experience or quality.
Yeah.
And you said that SIM+ is much better, which none one else can provide.
Right.
What I'm asking is that, what are the limitations of SIM+?
What are the limitations of SIM+?
Yes.
Of course, it cannot 100% predict human percent. That's impossible because even you have variations even between humans, right? So we do. I'm a researcher myself. We are doing a lot of subjective testing in our own lab, right? So my research lab in the university that keep doing subjective testing, objective metric, subjective testing, objective metric, keep doing this back and forth. We do a lot of things. So there's not always, you cannot do 100% prediction of human perception. And even between humans, you have variations. So to reduce this gap is always going to be the work we have to keep working on. It's just at this point, it seems like it's performing better than the other ones. Especially cross-resolution and cross-device. So for example, if you go with some other metrics, so for example, even VMAP is kind of helping you to produce scores for different resolutions. But basically, you can't take that score, compare across different resolutions. You have to look at the scores for each particular resolution individually. It doesn't really make that much sense to compare across different resolutions at this point. But they are improving as well. So I'm sure they're going to improve. Maybe next year you look at the new version, you're going to see something different. But like what I said, there's always a space you can improve. Right? That's why I'm doing like 15 years of research, but still working on it. Any more questions? Yes.
For reference?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. So the SIM+ measure and all the other measures I mentioned, they are full reference metric, but we also have no reference metrics and other thing we call degraded reference quality assessment or reduced reference quality assessment. If we talk about academic research, I can keep talking about this for 3 hours about all these variations. But even in the current SIMWAVE product, when we receive a source video content, there's no reference for that, right? So we do no reference source quality assessment first. Many times you have a source content that already have some artifact. We're going to detect that, tell you there's a problem there as well. We also have no reference. So for example, macro blocking detection. You have some transmission errors, or have all these macro blocking kind of stuff in your content. Our no reference measure will detect and report that. Right, so actually, if you are interested, you should come to our SIMWAVE booth. Right, so and our guys can show you the demo right away. So this macro blocking then is being detected and so on. And also we are offering another different thing is we're offering something like a quality map. Right, so up to the pixel level. Right, so not only we measure give a score for each of the video frame, but also we can do quality measure up at every single pixel. And you can also come to our booth, we're going to show you this quality map. It's for each of the frame, you can show a quality map or correspond to each pixel. You got a quality member. You can show that as a map. That will really tell you where are the problems. Even say we cannot 100% replace golden eyes. This can be a very useful tools. We talked to some golden eyes, and they say this is going to be very useful tools for them because now I know I can save my time watching the part of video that could have some problem, could have some trouble in terms of quality. They know exactly where are the places they should look at. Right, so that's some additional method. This is all coming from the general philosophy of methodology, how we design this method. Right, so the original idea, the general philosophy is not starting from like deep learning or AI-based, machine learning-based method, even though later on we actually have some other components use a lot of deep learning, machine learning. If you go to my university publication page, you will see I publish a lot of deep learning papers. But the very original source of this SIM+ algorithm is not starting from deep learning because then you kind of get into this trap. You have to, in other words, you have to start from deep knowledge about the human visual system, starting from there. Then you can solve the problem. And this is also going to be future-proof because for deep learning method, a major problem is if your training data does not contain something, then you don't expect your algorithm can do the magic and do the extrapolation. But on the other hand, if you design your stuff based on human visual system models, unless the human visual system, unless the biology change, otherwise these features are always going to be there. If you build model from there, this is going to be future-proof. As we talk about all these, say this video encoding, the method is evolving, is changing over time. How do you know my model trained from current model is going to apply for the future? Right? The future, you have never seen those new artifacts. How can I say my quality metric is going to work for that? Only if you understand your human visual system, you can say I can get a chance to kind of predict the future proof. Right, so hopefully that gives you a good answer. Any other question? Okay, Thank you very much.